All right, everybody, it's Eric King from the Weather Service at Morehead City. With me is David Glenn, and out in operations is Scott Kennedy. Scott is sending you briefing number 7, so we are going to be going off of the one that you see on your screen, and you'll have it in your inbox shortly. I did mute the line, so we shouldn't have to worry as much about background noise. Don't worry, we will unmute the line at the end so you can ask any questions that you have from us. With this latest briefing, not a lot of change from this morning, besides that Florence is now a hurricane. Confidence continues to increase that Florence will approach the East Coast as a major hurricane, and the probability for hurricane force winds is increasing across eastern North Carolina. And then we'll stress this a little bit more about rainfall amounts toward the end of the briefing. Our plan as far as briefings go is we'll have another PDF briefing by 6 this evening. And then we'll do twice daily webinars starting tomorrow and doing the same thing on Tuesday. This is the first time we've had some of the impacts with the storm. You'll notice that for the impacts we have too much uncertainty. We are still a couple of days out from possible impacts, so depending on the final track and where it actually hits, if it hits the coast, just too early to say for sure what we'll have here. We do want to emphasize the far right as far as timing goes. While there is still a lot of uncertainty in terms of track and where Florence may or may not hit, the models are starting to show that Florence could slow down or even stall over somewhere over the Carolinas by the end of the week into the weekend. If that were to happen, some of the impacts from wind or surge or rainfall or even tornadoes, Scott was just looking at this, might have to extend that slide into Saturday, that the impacts could be for multiple days, so not just a one-day affair. So kind of keep that in the back of your head, and as far as timing goes, that this could be a long duration event if we are impacted by Florence later this week. Summary of greatest impacts, it'll jump off the screen. The potential for extreme impacts from wind and surge for sure, but we specifically put low confidence on there because it's all about the track. Hopefully we'll get some clarity on that over the next day or day and a half, but it will really very much be track dependent, but the potential is there for extreme impacts from both surge and wind. Rainfall flooding, it'll again depend on the track where that sets up, same with tornadoes. High confidence, however, marine conditions will be bad and extreme impacts regardless of where Florence tracks with regards to those. Here's the latest forecast from the Hurricane Center. We mentioned that the one change was Florence has re-strengthened as expected and is now a hurricane. It is expected to go through a period of rapid intensification over the next couple of days. Conditions are very favorable, very, very warm water, low shear. So the Hurricane Center expects that Florence will strengthen pretty quickly here over the next couple of days and approach the southeast coast as a major hurricane. Forecast landfall would be sometime late Thursday or Friday as a major hurricane. And again, that could be anywhere from Charleston up through the Outer Banks. So still a little too early to get specific with the track more than that. One thing we do want to get specific with, and we're trying to preach this on social media, the window for ensuring that folks are prepared is getting smaller. We'll kind of emphasize that with the tropical storm force arrival winds here coming up. But we really continue to preach the preparedness and the aspect that we are getting very close to when folks need to wrap up their preparations. This is the earliest time of arrival. This is a 1 in 10 chance or worst case scenario. This graphic is the intention to show you when folks should complete their plans. Tropical storm force winds could arrive as early as sometime Wednesday evening. Changes to this graphic could occur if the storm track changes or the storm itself speeds up or slows down. But as of now, tropical storm force winds are possible as early as sometime Wednesday evening. Right now, the most likely time of arrival, this would be sometime early Thursday. And again, this could change depending on any change in storm track or motion. But right now, the most likely time for the arrival of tropical storm force winds would be sometime Thursday morning. We talk a lot about trends. David helped me a lot with this, being a newer forecaster here. If you've watched our briefings the last couple of days, the probabilities continue to increase, and it really stands out, the tropical storm force wind probabilities now up to 80 to 90% for much of eastern North Carolina. So we talk about not focusing on the numbers too much, focus on the trend. Well, the trend continues to significantly go up, and now those numbers are quite high at 80 to 90%. And we don't expect that to change other than continue go up unless we have a big change with the forecast track itself. For those folks in the military that are on the call, we appreciate the feedback. Through some of our partner meetings, you folks mentioned that you wanted the 50 knot wind speed probability on there, so that's why we have that on the briefing. Those continue to increase, and same thing again, expect those to continue to go up unless there's significant changes to the track itself. As far as hurricane force wind speed probabilities, those were rather low over the last 24 hours, as you would expect, being that far out from a possibility of a hurricane, but they are now up to 30 to 40% for the southern coastal portions of eastern North Carolina. The rainfall forecast, this is kind of a broad brush. We have forecast amounts from our partners at the Weather Prediction Center of 5 to 10 inches. Wouldn't focus on the specific amounts or the placements just yet. That's going to shift based on the final storm track. The other thing that could change is if the models are correct and the storm slows down or stalls, wherever that happens, these amounts could be significantly more. And that's something we just won't know until we get closer. So kind of put that in the back of your head that these are just preliminary amounts. They will be adjusted not only where the heaviest rain is, but also the amounts could go up or down depending on our confidence. The impact of that, initially flash flooding and river flooding, but it could last many, many days if that storm stalls over us, and then potential for weeks for river flooding. So kind of keep that in mind as well. Rip current forecast for today, we continue with high north of Cape Lookout and moderate south, but we anticipate as we get closer to the storm itself, really no matter what the track ends up being, that we'll have a high risk and rough surf for the remainder of the week. That could lead to some coastal erosion and overwash, possibly Tuesday or Wednesday on the Outer Banks. I'm going to turn it over to you folks here in a second. Just a reminder that our next briefing is going to be today at 6 o'clock via PDF, and then we'll have those webinars again tomorrow morning and tomorrow evening. You can always find this information on our website, and this is briefing 7. We're working on putting it on the website right now, so if you go right to it, you may just give us a couple minutes to get that up.